Major funding for Wilderness Journal has been provided by Vidal Sassoon Incorporated, dedicated to making the world beautiful. Additional funding has been provided by the Humanities Councils of these states, by these California agencies, and by Robert J. Betancourt.
There's always been a kind of wildness in us as a people, and the wilderness is part of our character as Americans. The need for space, and freedom, adventure. There's something in human nature that longs for the wild, and now more than ever, Americans are searching for it.
Share this adventure with me. It's a journal of my experience in the wilderness areas of 5 states. For both of us, it'll be a new experience, but one I think rooted in our heritage as Americans.
My journey begins in California's High Sierra. I rode with a guy who lives for the wilderness, an unbelievable commitment.
Try to imagine what the world would be like, or what our country would be like if there were no wilderness areas. If every place you went, there was a parking lot, or it was fenced off with a "keep out, this means you" sign. If there was no place that you could just go to roam and enjoy the country and know that it was your land along with the rest of the folks in America.
Rugged country, one of the great mountain barriers of America. Dave Willis is a guide, an occasional philosopher. The wilderness hasn't been gentle with him.
I don't feel that anybody that can walk into the wilderness ought to ride. I only ride because I was frostbitten and lost half of each foot, and I can't walk long distances.
Dave's ordeal on the icy peaks of Alaska wasn't kind to his hands either. Now, his challenge is just getting into this high country. He has a little trip in mind for tomorrow. It'll be a way to find out exactly what he's up against. Next morning, we pack our horses for the trip. The air is turning icy. Overnight, the weather has changed. Typical of the Sierra, sunny one minute, next minute a storm approaches. Dave's horse is crucial. It's an extension of his legs. If he's going to keep on leading groups into the wilderness, he's got to make the horse go anywhere a hiker can.
I'll follow you.
Okay.
The guy has an incredible will to push ahead.
The elements were cruel and harsh to me once, you could say. And in another sense, you could say that it wasn't the elements that were cruel and harsh to me at all. I know what the elements are. The elements, in one sense, are neutral. I just made a few mistakes or had a little bad luck or who knows what happened and paid a price for it. Fear keeps us from doing a lot of things. I think one of the reasons people don't care about wilderness is maybe because they're afraid of it. If we can bring them out here and give them a trip and show them how to love it instead of be afraid of it, it might last a lot longer.
Dave knows this part of the trail. He takes his groups into this wilderness area every year. The brochure for his trip says in big print, "You can do it." I begin to realize why he wants people to do it. It has to do with going light, recognizing limits, a whole new style of wilderness existence called minimum impact camping.
If people don't take that, if they don't practice minimum impact camping, even though it's a legal wilderness, it's going to look like a garbage dump. We don't even allow people to use toilet paper on our trips.
Approaching 9,000 feet elevation, a rocky, austere landscape. Not the usual picture postcard view of the Sierra, but Dave loves it. He has a sense of being in a special world.
When you come out and you look at these mountains, it's very clear that you didn't make them. And it's very clear that there's more to life than just what we make. When we're in LA or any place where man has had a lot of time to do his thing, pretty soon we start to think that we're God and that we make everything and that we can control everything. In the mountains, it's a lot harder to feel that.
Dave's goal, a high mountain pass, is covered by snow and ice, serious obstacles for someone on horseback.
Anybody else could just walk, look at that pass with their horse on one day and say, well, I'll come back and do it on a backpack trip the next day. The only way I can get into the woods now, in the mountains, is on a horse. So if I'm going to go on and do it on an extended trip, and I want to use that pass, I've got to get my horse over it with my stuff.
Now I can see the mountain barrier Dave has in mind. 1,500 feet above us. Those peaks are a gateway to one of California's largest wilderness areas. A little test of his skills in a wild land is to cross that icy snow, something he has never tried on horseback.
Curiosity as much as challenge, I suppose. I don't like the big macho trip of challenging the mountains. The whole conquering image that's destroying our wilderness and destroying the whole earth. We feel like we have to conquer the world instead of learning how to live with it. There's a lot to be gained from visiting an area and just living with it rather than conquering it. Hopefully, when we go to the wilderness, we can take that attitude back to the city or the valley or wherever we came from.
Looks pretty icy from here.
Yeah, I'll give it a try and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Reach 10,000 feet elevation, a 400-foot slope of icy snow between us and the pass. It would be hard to climb it by foot, let alone ride. Horses aren't made for ice.
Well, Dave, I'm going to watch you from here. You're the expert.
It looks crazy, but I'm going to take it just a step at a time.
Okay.
I think I'll try to work my way through the rocks up to that boulder, and if it looks just too stupid, I'm going to turn around.
Okay. Good luck, Dave.
The guy fascinates me. A mixture of personal daring and an almost religious sense of the earth. Almost zero traction, sharp rocks below. Dave's balancing act.
Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. You got it. Come on.
Fantastic.
Way to go, Dave!
A minor triumph in a magnificent setting.
That's it!
For Dave Willis, an open door to the future.
I draw my physical and spiritual sustenance from this work.
Lorenzo Stoll, backcountry ranger. He's convinced Dave's paradise is in deep trouble.
The Forest Service manuals, I guess, or whatever, suggest that you should be providing solitude or a place where one can experience solitude. Do you find that that's taken place?
The Wilderness Act says we're to provide opportunities for solitude. All right, now what we find when we go out in the field is that the visitors aren't quite as interested in solitude as they may say they are. For instance, you go to a particular lake or destination that's popular, and the visitors are all there camped right next to each other. I mean, literally camped next to each other. At the present levels of use, too many people are experiencing the wilderness right here. In other words, they're loving it to death.
What do you think it'll be like, for instance, here in the next, in 50 years?
Well, who knows? You and I won't be here. But if present trends continue, then it'll be beat to death.
Hard to believe Stoll's prediction, but even as we talked, plans were being made to restrict public use here. The American wilderness is being rediscovered, but it's a little different wherever you go. Far to the north is a land being preserved not by the government, but by Native Americans, and for very good reasons. The sense of the wild, of mystery, is everywhere. It's home for elk and the grizzly. The weather is treacherous. The temperature once plunged 68 degrees in 11 minutes.
The Montana wilderness possesses a legendary ferocity. When Lewis and Clark first passed near here, European culture had its first encounter with an almost superhuman land, the Northern Rockies. But for the people who live near these mountains today, wilderness is more than an awesome setting. It's their way of life.
Tonight it's elk roast, pan-fried bread, and blueberry pie, food from the land. A dinner with the Salish Kootenai tribe, also called the Flatheads.
Elk.
Their tribal lands embrace these mountains.
We waited for you, David.
Now watch two of them will come up here. Yeah. Where's David?
Bearhead Sweeney on the far side of the table. It was his son who killed the elk which we were enjoying. A strong sense of cultural heritage here, something the tribe is willing to fight for. Later, we sat together to sing, a communion with each other and the past. Johnny Arlee took the lead. A gymnasium became a ceremonial house. Singing evokes a sense of tribal unity.
By our beating all together, all at once, we're making one heartbeat.
But the source of wisdom and strength for each individual comes from the animal.
Each of the animals had a special purpose. The young people would be sent to the mountains to seek the power, the vision, or whatever it is from the animals so that they can have their strength. And the person that becomes gifted through one of the animals, that's their spiritual guidance for their life.
The search for an animal, a guardian spirit, begins at a young age.
How do you find your animal if you're a child?
When you go to a mountain where you may be left at a young child, where your mother and father might just bring you there on a fake berry hunt and just left, and you cry, bawl, find out that you're all alone, and eventually an animal will come to your aid.
Your animal could be a bear or a gopher, and you might not get your vision the first time out.
For myself, it was kind of a crazy thing. I went up one night and I got lonesome and went home, you know. So it wasn't...
You got to go back a few times, huh?
Yeah.
For the tribe, the wilderness is a temple. For Bearhead Sweeney, a place to rediscover his roots.
46, we were camped right down here across the river. We were poisoning gophers. And we poisoned an awful lot of pheasants, did an awful lot of damage, and we didn't understand, even us at that time, I guess, didn't have a feeling for animals or feeling for wildlife or the sacredness of those things. And we said that, you know, it was one of the things we lost, that feeling for the animals, and we poisoned them. Now we're catching on. I guess the wilderness
A first for an American Indian group was the recent Flathead vote to keep part of their lands in a wild state. The vote was out of reverence for the bear and the other animals.
And that's where the animals are in their most natural place. And if we want to find what being Indian is again, that's where we find it. We don't find it in the cities.
We talk about solitude and spirituality, but a place to really try to get in touch with something. I know being from where I come from, myself, I basically don't have that. I have ancestors from Ireland, ancestors from Germany, or wherever all that is. So you become, in a sense, a potpourri American. And, you know, to confront the wilderness, I imagine, in Ireland, way back in my, my ancestors.
You'd probably be confronting it with a bottle of good old Irish red now, wouldn't you?
Yes, I try to stay away from it, though, you know. You have a little of that in you, do you?
Oh,
yeah,
the
Irish?
old father was a beaut Irish when he was now.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah.
Well, see, I'm just getting into that, too. We're basically trying to get in, to get something from the wilderness.
If there's anything holy, it's a wilderness. If there's anything holy left we have in this country, it's the animals. Not us. I think we've proven to ourselves, and we have to begin to look at the animals. Over here east of us is called the Mission Wilderness, our own Flathead Wilderness, where the grizzlies stay. And we've made that a wilderness, but the grizzly have set up their own area, and we just merely put tribal law behind it. We have a lot of problem up there. The sheep rancher that wants to raise sheep and keep his dead sheep around, and then the grizzly come down and clean up his yard for him, and he panicked and shot a couple of them. And it's really a crime, in my opinion, that take an animal like a grizzly and compare it to a sheep. Because I really believe in my own heart that grizzly talks just like you and I, and he has a heaven, he has a soul, he has a creator just like you and I. And his place is just as strong here as mine is. I'm not more important than him. And I think we have to adopt that. We have to give him importance, give the gopher, the coyote, because we're killing ourselves, slowly and methodically.
They can't take all the bears really and hide them, and I wouldn't be in favor of exterminating all of them, or,
Keith Cable ranches on the edge of the Flathead tribal holdings. He's found himself the center of an ongoing controversy.
I like it here real well, I like the creek coming through here, and I like to see the wildlife down here. And for the most part, we don't bother them. Outside of, some particular isolated instances, you don't really have much trouble with them.
Trouble came to this idyllic setting when Keith found dead sheep outside his corral.
What happened to me was, it was quite a while before I figured out it was a bear. And so it wasn't all at one night or something like that. It went on for quite a while. And I didn't know if it was dogs or coyotes or what, Well, when I finally figured out it was a bear, then immediately we put them in the corral, and the bears came right in the corral,
The Flathead Wilderness is designed to protect the 25 or so bears remaining. The incident was publicized because the grizzly is disappearing fast. When the authorities wouldn't help him, Cable found his own answer.
Those two bears I shot were probably less than 50 yards. I'd yell at them, but they didn't pay attention to me, because they weren't eating the sheep. They were just killing them for the most part. But people that's been here a lot longer than I have, when they bother, it seems that to be the case. One bear will do that, and you get rid of that bear, and then you don't have any more trouble for maybe quite a long time.
A single incident on an average ranch, but the controversy isn't dying down. There are experts who think it may have been carcasses of sheep in Cable's boneyard that attracted the mother and her cubs. Biologists are worried about the grizzly population. Wildlife expert Charles Jonkel, University of Montana.
It shouldn't have happened, really, but it did. I think there's a fair chance if she hadn't been killed, she would have, moved back into the wild and not created any further problems. I think it was that boneyard being right next to the sheep pen that sort of led her down the garden path.
Jonkel paints a different picture of the grizzly than does Keith Cable. The constant possibility of human-bear contact is usually avoided by the bears themselves.
They do it. They just come down and move through the people, through the farms and ranches, and come to feeding areas like this.
But they wouldn't come across somebody's space, like they really kind of consciously understand where like the humans are and they move around them. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, they're very clever at that, and almost polite, you could say, the way they avoid the space that the people use and need. And like in this case, they very consciously avoid a place where these people live and follow the cover and come right in around through here where we're coming.
This looks like 42nd Street for bears. I mean, the cover is incredible. And this is where most of their food are, berries and...
Walk with Jonkel for a while and the place seems thick with bear presence. The guy is a bear detective. Nothing escapes his eyes. Strands of grizzly fur caught on a fence.
The only time they get on their hind legs is when they want to see better. It makes them up higher so they can see better.
Not like in the movies where they're always attacking and things like that?
No, that stage, they don't attack on their hind feet. The only thing they do on their hind feet is see better. And they don't get up like that very often.
You think there are any in this area right now?
I would think we're probably within 200 yards of a grizzly or two right now.
The deeper I go into this thicket, the more I can feel what it's like to be a bear.
Is it compatible, a wilderness area and a ranching community this vast right next to each other? Do you think the bears and the ranchers and all these animals can coexist without any problem?
Oh, the bears can sure do it if the people will agree to do it. It does take some doing things some different ways, and it takes a bit of tolerance by the people and understanding.
Is there a possibility of extinction?
Oh, there is. They have a very low reproductive rate, and of course they do get in conflict with people, and they have a bad reputation with some people. It's in most cases undeserved. This little area is only about 9 acres, and there's probably about anywhere from 5 to 10 grizzly bears that use it. And here it is surrounded by ranch land. And there's already 4 homes that are encroaching on it. If there's 2 or 3 or 4 more, the bears will quit using this. It's a very important site to them. And that's a constant threat of more people, but also new people. They'll move from this 60th story apartment, come to a place like this, get settled in, and then complain that there's grizzly bears there.
And I can eat these, is that correct?
Oh, these are very edible. They're called a serviceberry, and they've been good to eat for about 2 months, and they're still good now, even though they're like raisins now.
They're a little dry.
The Indians use these chiefly as pemmican. They'd mix dried meat with them, and it keeps indefinitely, and it's a very high-energy food.
Excuse my ignorance, what is pemmican?
Well, it was dried berries mixed with dried meat. It's called pemmican. It's about like our health food bars that you can buy in the grocery store now.
Like beef jerky, but...
The jerky mixed with raisins would be about what pemmican was.
They're good.
Mm-hmm. The bears think so, too.
The bears think so, huh? Well, listen, guys, we're just visiting.
They'll stand on their hind feet and just strip them off with their mouth. And you can see the abundance of them. It's just tons of them for them to have access to. If grizzly bears could talk, for instance, I think what they would say is about what people say who live out in the wilderness. And they say we want space, we want wild areas where there are berries and things like that. They need about the same thing we need.
Invisible presence, and like us in so many ways. Jackson Hole, Wyoming. A pit stop on the edge of the wilderness, providing everything you'll need going in and all you'll want when you come out. The problem is, visitors to nearby Grand Teton National Park, who once numbered in the thousands, are now in the millions. Local residents are beginning to wonder if this influx of visitors is going to destroy their wilderness. Attorney Hank Phibbs has watched the town's population multiply for 30 years, but he's still optimistic.
I've talked to a lot of people who do have extraordinary experiences here, who go out with their families for a picnic, go up in the park and sit and watch wildlife for a while, and experience something they just don't see in their lives otherwise.
That would be solitude for a big city guy, wouldn't it? I mean, it's...
Solitude and a sense of the land that they don't experience otherwise, what nature is. And they still get a chance to at least share with one another the extraordinary setting and the passage of a day with no cars and no streetcars and no taxis and no telephones, nothing but the sun, you know, and the rainstorms that move through and the animals and the wind. A different sense of time, a different sense of your own relationship to the land we live on. It is a very delicate situation when you have millions of people traveling through the floor of the valley and through those great parks. But the way that they have been preserved and maintained to this point, and the way nature set things up, there is wilderness.
Just minutes away from the bar, the mountains take on their full force, and you can almost forget the town and its problems. Almost. Deeper into the mountains, you can see and hear water in all its alpine splendor. A relatively small number of visitors get this far, but it's a second home for mountaineers like Jack Turner.
I don't consider Grand Teton National Park as having wilderness. It has a great deal of beautiful country. It's wonderful country. But wilderness, no, I tend not to think of it as wilderness.
A philosophy professor who gave it all up to return here. Now he's a guide for the Glen Exum School of Climbing. He doesn't perceive the Tetons as wilderness, but he senses something else is available here for all Americans.
You have somebody from, say Alabama, who comes out here and rides a horse 3 miles in from the road and thinks he's having a wilderness experience, and he is having a wilderness experience. On the other hand, you could take any of our guides and drop them anywhere in any wilderness area in the American West, and I bet that in one day they'll be out to a road. And for me, if you have that kind of access to highways and so on, you're not really in wilderness. I think that there's a tremendous amount of wilderness in Alaska, the Yukon, the Northwest Territories, the kind of place where you can canoe for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, and not cross a road, not see a single sign of human habitation.
Is there something deep, personal thing you get out of these mountains yourself?
They're the closest things that we have in this country to something resembling a shrine. There are very few places in Europe and in North America where we have sacred sites. Our culture doesn't have a tradition of sacred places yet, but I think that the establishment of the national parks is the beginning in that direction.
Stand up, stand up. You're going to really have to stand up when you come up here.
Now, do I look for anything?
Today I'll try the beginner's rock climb and hang off a 400-foot cliff. More and more people are doing it. High-risk sports have come to the wilderness.
Where your hands are by using just friction. That's it, you're doing great. Stand up on your legs. Stand up on your foot.
Shouldn't have to worry, though. My guide will be Kim Schmidt, a world-class mountain climber who's done it all, including breaking his back on a fall from a rock just like this in China.
A little slick. Use your feet, trust your feet. Your feet got a brain of their own.
It's often been said of me that my brains were in my feet, and I had to come all the way out here to prove it.
Try to get up here before the rain hits. Okay, Bill, you can lean out a little bit further. That's it. Don't start looking for handholds, because there aren't any. That's it, just like that. There you go. Now stand up on your foot. Smooth as you can. I can feel a few raindrops. It's getting a little slicker out here, so you're going to have to watch your climbing technique a little bit more. You're gonna have to pay special attention to leaning out from the rock. If you lean in, your feet are gonna slip for sure. That's it, you're doing fine. Lean out a little bit further, Bill. That way you'll be able to see everything around you, where your feet are gonna go. It's pretty slick.
What am I looking for here?
There's nothing for you to look for. Just drop your heels of your feet so you get as much of the sole on the rock as possible. Just don't lean in. Now I'll put the toe of the foot. There you go. Now stand up straight. That's it. There you go. You got the perfect stance. Good going.
You gotta learn to love the rope.
It's the best thing you got going is your umbilical cord.
The idea of being here in the wilderness and such is, you know, I really love it and I do it. But to climb rocks and to do things like that has absolutely no draw for me whatsoever. I don't understand for 1 second why you do it.
Everyone likes to brag a little bit. They want to get up to a little bit of adventure in them, but once they finally do it, they get addicted probably just to the thrill of being scared up there. It's sort of nice to go up and say, I climbed that thing, and you know what it took and how you felt doing it, and you see why climbers really climb. There's quite a sensation that goes through your mind that you can't really talk about once you get down lower. It's an addicting thing. In fact, if you want to talk about wilderness, you just get on the rock over there, and you're away from people, you're away from everything. And that's wilderness right there. We can go up these rocks. We can go places where other people can't even get off trails.
There's a real intimate feeling here with the rock.
There's an intimate feeling, and that's actually what comes with experience. I think we're all stimulation junkies, yeah. We need something like that. A wilder spot every time, anything.
Exhausting morning. The thrill of hanging off a cliff. I think I prefer hanging off a horse. Out here, 2 hearts beating as one.
You're very important, but you're very insignificant because you're one with nature. This is it, you know. The riverbank is your church. This is the lure of the land. Everybody wants to get off in the woods when they can get away. Gives you a good feeling, straightens out your mind. I get on the river and I just want to keep it going. Just go, 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 and meet the things along the way, discover things along the way. I feel it very deeply, no doubt. And the river, say something gets in your blood, it really does. You become a part of it. It becomes a part of you, it seems like.
Boatman Ken Slight has been around long enough to be a legend. He loves his Colorado River, but he's given up boating, almost given up the river of his dreams. Too many bad associations. Big corporations pushing out the little guys, growing crowds in summer, and now maybe a nuclear dump site.
Great day for it, huh?
We met on the river near Canyonlands National Park. It's in country like this that the engineers say they need a dump. It will store highly toxic wastes from power plants and military weapons.
Okay.
This country, his whole way of life, is telling Ken to resist.
I don't think that the American people will allow a nuclear dump to be placed right next to a national park. I've been in the tourist business now for 30 years, and I feel like bringing something in like this would be so incompatible with the entire canyon country environment. We're just plain damn scared of it. That's it. We don't know the whole answer. We don't know the health hazards. Some scientists say it's safe and others say it's not. Who do we believe? The river flows right down to the Southern California. And if they put the nuclear dump, I believe it's about 10 miles away from the river. And groundwater, if it did seep into the groundwater, well, they'd have a hell of a problem.
Southern California, we'd be taking our showers in
we'd be taking our
nuclear
showers
waste.
in the nuclear waste, right.
That's incredible.
Right. I'd rather be on the safe side. I'd like to just keep the whole uranium dump right away from here. I think we can do it. We'll do it if we have to lay in front of the caterpillars as they come in. We've won some battles, and we expect to win some more. But every time we lose, well, it's just a little more that's taken away. The wilderness is going, and our freedom is going. But I don't know the answer.
Sudden weather changes seem to be following me. Rain and snow, the Colorado turning gray in a matter of hours, as turbulent as the politics in this area. It's 22 degrees above zero. Hardy Red's vast cattle ranch. His family has roots that go deep in this land.
It depends on who's doing the judging. I recall a statement by Samuel Gompers, who, when somebody asked him what labor wanted, he said, more. And that's the feeling I have about the wilderness advocates, is they don't care how much, they just want more. And I think we ought to have enough, but I worry about taking too much. I don't think people who want wilderness should say, our use is the only use. For example, up here behind us, where you can't see now because of the snow, is a uranium mine, which I would prefer not be there because it interferes with my aesthetic. It's in the way of the mountain, and I would prefer it not being there. But I can't be a dog in the manger and say the only use that would be allowed on this land, for example, is cattle grazing or sheep grazing. I'm saying, much as I dislike it, I'm willing to live with it because I believe in multiple uses. Various uses should be made of the land.
Do you envision a nuclear waste dumping in this area?
I don't envision one here, but I'm not a very good prophet.
You're not a very good prophet.
Yeah, it's one of the sites that's being looked at, and they're doing some continued testing. My concern is that we put the stuff in the safest place in the United States. And if this is the safest place in the United States, I hope that it isn't, but if it is, then I think as an American, I should do my duty and take it.
Today, deeper into this country with the sun leading the way, onto the high plateaus where you can almost see the rim of the world. Edge of the world. The Indians here made songs to the cloud people, to the earth horizon.
Utah's southeast corner. It's called Canyon Lands. Endless, open to the skies. The early American settlers thought they found a new kind of land. And even today, people are awestruck by its vastness.
It's still a place to discover, to get lost in its maze of canyons, to feel that undefinable lure. Seeing beauty in arid lands isn't always easy, but few people have done as much as author Edward Abbey in helping America understand this treasure. Some call him a present-day Henry David Thoreau, novelist, essayist, lover of the land, sometimes cantankerous, but always at home in the middle of nowhere.
I think it's quite pretty. Yes, it is. This is the kind of road I like.
Yeah, this one, huh? No beginning and no end. Just sits here.
I was born and raised on a farm back in Pennsylvania. When I was 17, I hitchhiked around the country in the summer of '44, and that's when I first saw the Southwest. And I fell in love with it right away. With me, it was love at first sight. I love it all. I regard this as it's home for me. Well, I would have liked to have seen the whole American West set aside as a national playground, wilderness, place for Indians and Boy Scouts, and grizzly bears, and mountain lions. But it's too late for that now. From a national point of view, there's not very much country like this left. Something like 2% has been set aside as official wilderness in the 48 states. I don't want to keep anybody out. I just want to keep out the machinery, cars and trucks. Let people walk in or go in on horseback or bicycle or boat, but I wouldn't keep anybody out.
Thanks for inviting me to dinner, Ed. This is phenomenal.
How do you like my house?
Just great.
Old stone house. Here to catch some of the grandest views on Earth. But now it's abandoned. For Ed, a symbol of the possibility of escape. Life-giving.
I like this old house. I think it belongs here. Built with a local rock. Fits right in. It's beautiful. I think it enhances the primitive country.
It seems that I'm always in the wrong seat when the guy says down to your left is the Grand Canyon or off to the right is Lake Powell or
Always
whatever.
on the wrong side of the plane. Huh? This country looks quite strange and beautiful from the air. You can get a good sense of the way things are arranged from an airplane. But I've been out here for about 35 years now, and I've seen a great change, dramatic change in the quality of the air. Now, we're kind of lucky today. We had a rainstorm yesterday, and so things are pretty clear. But ordinarily, much of the time, you'd see a pall of yellow haze all across the southern horizon. And most of that smog comes from the coal-burning power plants. But today we're lucky. It's clear enough you can even see the moon. See all the way from here to the moon.
The smallest of details works with this land, and Ed's not one to resist.
These shallow ones will dry up in a few hours if the sun stays out.
A pothole, naturally formed in the sandstone.
To know it well and intimately, I think you have to get out and walk on it, sleep on it, make love on it, live on it, in it, with it for a while. The American West is still the most lightly populated part of the country, and it's being strip mined and used for various kinds of dumps because there aren't enough people here to protest, to object. I think it's my duty as an American to protect and defend this kind of country. I think this land is too beautiful and too precious to be turned into an industrial dump of any kind. I think the wilderness and the open country is more important than the nuclear industry. If we have to make a sacrifice, let's sacrifice nuclear power. That would be my choice. I love it so much. You know, I still find it hard to talk about it. I'd much rather just enjoy it.
Gerlach, Nevada, 3 hours north of Reno in the heart of America's wasteland wilderness. Population, 3 bars and 2 motels. The pioneers weren't sure this was a heaven or a hell, and the people here haven't made up their minds either. Georgia Douglas.
When I first came here, we were only here a month and our trailer burned. We lost everything. And well, I know I had a friend that used to come and say, well, come on, Georgia, let's go for a walk. And so help me, these mountains, this area, and so on. It's the serenity of everything. It's just really marvelous. It's the best psychiatrist you ever had.
More and more people like Georgia are finding peace out here. For rancher Dean Iverson, it just doesn't amount to much.
It doesn't bother you at all that a lot of people come through here and basically camp on the edges of it or out on it? And
Don't bother me a bit because they ain't bothering no one else and they're enjoying it. So if they enjoy it, let them have it.
Absolutely.
Right, we don't need no wilderness out of that darn thing. There ain't nothing there but mud. But anyway, that's all it is salt mud.
It's salt mud.
Yeah.
An ocean of profound stillness. Strange thing to call a piece of desert, but Nevada's Black Rock Desert is just that. Remote and quiet, almost barren of plant life. So immense you can see the curvature of the earth.
The Black Rock sits right in the middle of the great American desert. 200,000 square miles of stone and sunlight. A landscape that America can't seem to love, at least not yet.
You shouldn't come here to arrive at anything. You should come here to disappear. This would seem to me to be an eminently desirable wilderness area. If you just have quiet, open space, peace, silence. You know, the colors that you're looking at, these would look pretty ugly to somebody whose eye is trained to see nothing but green, which you would see in Vermont or upstate New York. Painters have a lot of trouble, and historically had a lot of trouble painting the West. They haven't been sufficient.
Wallace Stegner, novelist, Pulitzer Prize winner. His roots are in the barren high plains of mid-America and Canada, a country he has written to breed mystical people, egocentric people, perhaps poetic people. His vision of the continent is at once sweeping and intimate.
I live in the country and I don't need to go out to smell the flowers and the weeds. You know, I don't have to leave my yard. But if I'm looking for real quiet, if I'm looking for that kind of aloneness with the universe, if I'm looking to have myself awed by the universe a little bit, I have to go where it's solitary. It's good for the soul simply because you cannot feel macho, proud, arrogant, destructive if you're sitting there alone with the universe, because the universe will put you down. And I think it should. This place just reeks of history because this was the main stopping place on this Applegate cutoff, Lassen Applegate cutoff to California and Oregon.
The pioneers came here in the thousands, and we drive by in the millions. Few of us desire to stay and look around. That worries Stegner.
A lot of people think they like mountains better than deserts. I think that's because they don't know deserts. But the quality of purity and silence and the earth as it existed untouched or relatively untouched by people is probably better preserved in deserts right now than in any alpine wilderness we've got. I think if you want to keep the American character, whatever that is, thinking in terms of freedom, liberty, independence, things like that, you've got to give them some space. They came through here first in 1846 on this cutoff, and that's a long time ago. The spring is still boiling away, and the grass is still growing. The silence is still as deep as ever.
It's extraordinary how quiet it is.
Oh, isn't it?
What do you get from just coming out into the wilderness? Obviously, you've been going in it for many years, written a lot about it, and are interested in making sure that it's here for everybody else. What is it?
I don't know. It's a kind of penance in me, I guess. My family were absolutely typical Americans. Plowed up virgin buffalo grass up in Montana and Saskatchewan and helped make dust bowls and so on. And I caught on, somewhere in middle life that everything that we had been doing was probably mistaken. It was not wicked or anything, it was just mistaken. I think to keep 1 or 2% of the continent really pure, with real restrictions on it, would be not only an act of penance, but a kind of gesture to the earth, saying, thank you.
One thing about this, if you look at a mine, this mine, for example, it was a wealth created. We're not washing each other's linen. We're producing something from the earth that didn't exist before. And we're creating a new source of revenue, new source of employment, and
during the 1930s, this provided a situation where people made a living when it was tough to make a living. They came out here and did something. It was the free enterprise system in action.
I met a couple of exploration geologists, basically modern prospectors near the Black Rock, Pete Galley and Jim Bright. Here are the machines and the people who built this country, and they know it. But they're feeling a little cramped these days.
About 87% of Nevada is in public domain, but there's probably something like 45% that's available for prospecting and mining. The rest of the public lands are tied up in military reservations, wilderness areas, Indian reservations, and so forth. So there's very little of the public land, percentage-wise, in Nevada that's really available for prospecting and mining.
The society needs the mining industry to produce things, and the mining industry needs society to buy it. If environmentalists and people don't like mining, all they need to do is stop buying things, and we'll stop mining them. It brings the whole thing to a halt. If people want oil wells not to be drilled, they should stop using gasoline. Stop heating their homes.
Stop building your home.
Freeze in the dark.
Freeze in the dark. That's your guy's motto, right?
Not a motto.
The hell with them. Let them freeze in the dark. But we are, in a sense, that people don't realize to what great extent we're living off mined assets in this country.
Anything, that's exactly right. If it can't be grown, it has to be mined.
Just north of here is an area called the Black Rock Desert area. Now, that's a proposed wilderness area. Do you think that place, for instance, should become a wilderness area?
No, I don't. I think it doesn't have any of the aesthetic wilderness values as far as I'm concerned. There's roads all through it. It's being used by recreationists. It's very accessible. You can drive across it with any sort of vehicle. There's some potential mineral deposits in the area.
The danger that's most evident in this country is that we've tried to strip landscape of its spiritual essence. We've tried to pretend that there are no spiritual qualities in the land. It's not only wrong, it's sacrilegious to say that.
Barry Lopez driving, writes on everything from wolves to deserts.
The first time I came out on these playa deserts, I got into my van and I drove out across the space, and that's where I first began to understand how intimidated I was, how tyrannized I was by this vehicle that I drove all over North America in. And I thought, well, I'm not on a road anymore. I don't have to drive. I can just, I can turn around like this. And I sat where you were sitting, And then I looked over here where I was sitting. I got up and I got in the back seat. Just got back here like this. This is phenomenal. I love it. And I have misgivings about it, because I wonder, what am I doing out here with my automobile? Why aren't I out there walking around or something? But this is a way that we have of breaking down all of these preconceived notions about what a desert is, what the space is like out here.
Maybe he'll start a revolution in America, people loving the desert. The first step is to strip away the machine.
And say, this is what it looks like when I'm driving around the country, but there's nobody there, You can open the door and get out. Because you lose your sense of, well, I got to go here, I got to stop. I've got to follow the road, I've got to do what this
I got to do what this thing tells me to do. I've got to get out and get in and run alongside.
It is a fabulous idea, though. Look at it.
But look at that. Who is the guy that was driving this thing? That was you and me. That was
My brother Joe.
Was in there first. You can get out ahead of it. Come on
This
up here.
kind of
We'll
country makes you
can-
stop.
You can hitch.
Makes you just stop. Stop asking for so much.
For me, being a theater person, it is incredible. A Godot or Endgame. Endgame, perfect place for it.
This is a stage, and that's one of the first thoughts that comes into your mind when you come out here. It's a stage, it's a place as though your imagination were a character.
This desert wilderness does something to your imagination. The space, the infinite pattern of veins, like coming to rest on the heart of America.
Space is like air, or like darkness, or like silence. All of those things are natural resources. Quiet, silence. This is a repository of silence. This is where silence is. And you and I come out here, look at this light. It's everywhere, and that's something that is very special to the desert. It's unique. You don't see it in a forest, where you have to keep looking up to see where's the sun, You could look right out here and see the sun early in the morning. What are the things that have sustained us for 10,000 years? Those are the things that are worth saving. Those are the things that are worth protecting with your life.
If there's anything holy, it's a wilderness.
I love it so much. I still find it hard to talk about it. I'd much rather just enjoy it.
You shouldn't come here to arrive at anything. You should come here to disappear.